All things in moderation. Is that good advice or bad advice? I'm Jackie Elmer. Grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Okay, so we hear all the time everything in moderation. Have you heard that? Have you said that? Have you done that? Now, if you followed me at all, you know I'm an 80-20 girl. 80% of the time, I am going to be pristine in what I do. 20% of the time, I'm going to throw caution to the wind and take more risks. Now, what I find honestly is as I age, I'm much more of a 90-10 girl, but I like to get everyone started under the 80-20 rule. If you shoot for that, you're going to do so much better. So, what does that have to do with moderating? Well, here's the thing that most of us say or hear on a regular basis, and we've done in our lives just a little bit. Here's the reality, though, and you know this if you look around the world today. We live in a toxic soup. We have so many chemicals, toxins that are constantly invading us on a regular basis, almost no matter what we do. Now, I don't want that to scare you. The reality of it is we can't get away from some of the stuff that's around us, but if we can begin to reduce what we can consciously control, that's going to make a huge impact for you because the body is very resilient and it will adapt and adjust and process a lot of different things. But it's kind of like anything I've shared before. If you've ever seen the old I Love Lucy episode where they're actually in the chocolate factory and they're working along and they're wrapping chocolates, and pretty soon the conveyor belt speeds up and pretty soon they can't get it done fast enough and they're stuffing those chocolates in their mouth and in their shirts and everything, trying to get rid of them. That's kind of what our body begins to do when we overload it with toxins. So let's think about that. All things in moderation. I think it's something like 138 chemicals on a daily basis is what the average American woman applies to her skin as she goes through the day, from her personal care routine, her shower, her shampoo, her facial cleansing, her body, all of those type things. At the end of that little process, which may take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, she's typically put on and through her body processed around 138 chemicals, toxic chemicals, chemicals that aren't good for you if you're just using the top selling brands that you're being marketed to on a regular basis. Then as you make your way into the kitchen, it's possible that you're drinking coffee that's filled with mold. If you're not very carefully sourcing your coffee, you're adding sweetener to it that has a total chemical overload, your creamer, your coffee mate, things like that. Perhaps you reach for a very ultra processed food product to complete your breakfast, lunch on the go, going through the drive-through at a fast food restaurant. When you stop and think about all those things, it does begin to create a toxic soup for us. Then maybe you come home and you get out the 409 and you clean off your kitchen counter, breathing in those toxic fumes that make your lungs go, get me out of here. Can you relate to what I'm talking about? They say these days that our home environment is filled with more chemicals than the outside air, and yet at the same time, they caution us all the time not to go outside because, it's a bad day. It's extremely bad environmentally. What is a person to do? And again, this is not meant to scare you. Being out in nature is fabulous. So we're going to talk about some ways to clean things up as much as possible. So what do you need to be moderating? Well, again, it comes down to the basics. Let's just talk about food and diet. What I'm going to encourage you to do is sit down and make a list of what your day typically consists of in terms of the foods that you consume, from your coffee to additives you put in your coffee. Are you using a sweet and low or a fake sugar that's a chemical toxin for you? What exactly are you doing? Spend one day, maybe even spend 1 week, and start to track everything that you put into your body. Then go into your shower and your bathroom and pay attention. What are the products that I'm using as I shower to wash my hair, conditioner, to clean my face, clean my body? What am I moisturizing with? What are the makeup and skincare things that I put on my face? What type of deodorant am I using? Am I using sunscreens? What are those different things? Make a list of what those consist of on a daily basis. And then think about your personal care products. Now, in below in the links, I'm going to link for you all the videos that I've already created on how to offset some of these things. And again, make sure you have my guide at lowertoxiclife.com so you can have these, you can print them out, you can store them on your phone, whatever, so that you can very quickly begin to research. Now, I've mentioned it before, but make sure you have downloaded the app, Environmental Working Group. It's hard to see here on the recording, but I will make sure the photo below is going to help you. Download that app, and then when you're out and about, you can plug different products in and see how they rate in terms of toxicity and chemicals for you. And you can very quickly learn the rating system. It's not perfect, but again, you're shooting for the 80-20 rule in what you do. It doesn't have every single product listed, but over time, you're going to learn how to read labels. And by the way, in my guide, I teach you how to read labels. You're going to learn how to read labels and figure out those things that you should avoid. So we've got the foods that we know that are toxic for us: seed oils, sugar, ultra processed foods, a lot of grains. You have to be super, super careful. High fructose corn syrup. There are a few of the bad guys, the bad boys, that you want to make sure that you eliminate all the time. And again, the 80-20 rule, but there are some of these for me that are an absolute hard no. Occasionally, if I'm out and I'm caught, maybe I might consume something that has some high fructose corn syrup in it. But very often, I just quickly go the other way. So these are some things that we do. Now, let's talk about alcohol. I know a lot of people don't like to have this conversation. And by the way, if you're looking to reroute your relationship with alcohol, you can go to throttlebackthebottle.com. I've got a free little guide to take you through how to begin to not necessarily just eliminate, but to change your relationship with alcohol. It's a process that I did a few years ago, and I've never felt better. I've never looked better. I've never performed better. And I'm super happy that I did that. Am I a 100% non-drinker? No, I'm not. But now when I indulge in that occasional glass of champagne or glass of wine or margarita or whatever, I'm doing it very intentionally with a well thought out plan to help my body process that as best it can. And again, reduce the toxic overload. So even alcohol in moderation is a key part of it. So we've covered food, we've covered alcohol, I've mentioned ultra processed foods, I've talked about your personal care products, and I've talked about your home cleaning products. The final thing I really want to cover are microplastics. If you haven't heard, it's now estimated that we consume about a half of a credit card in microplastics every week in the American diet and in the American exposure. Everything from your plastic water bottles to those Starbucks coffee cups that we get that hot water is often poured into, hot coffee, hot tea, which releases those microplastics. A lot of things that we don't think about. The food that we purchase, the styrofoam takeaway to-go boxes that we bring stuff home in. When we really stop and think about the microplastics that consume our lives on a daily basis, that's another great way that you can begin to reduce. So one of the things I want to encourage you, always use your own stainless steel or glass water bottle, water container. Take this into Starbucks, take this into your coffee shop. They will gladly fill it for you. Very often, you will get a reduced price on it. It's not a lot, like a dime, but you're saving the earth, you're saving the environment, and you're saving your toxic overload. So that's a big part. Get rid of those plastic water bottles, buy a Berkey water filter system, whatever. Be filtering your water and don't put it in plastic. So that's a great one for you to start with. You can basically do the same thing. It takes a little more planning, but if you're going out to dinner, just take a little glass, a little small glass thing, throw it in your purse, throw it in a backpack, bring it with you. And if you know you're going to be getting a to-go box, ask for it to be put into that. They usually allow you to, or you don't even have to ask. You can just bring it, get it out, put your leftovers in it, and take it back home. Bring a little cooler if you need to, if you're going to be out, or at very least, put it in that plastic container, get it home, and then as quickly as you can, move it over into a non-toxic storage container. So we've got water bottles, plastic straws. I replaced all my plastic straws with a glass straw. I actually even travel with one so that I'm again, not consuming the same thing. I have portable little cutlery that I will take with me if I'm eating out, like if I'm taking a picnic lunch or traveling on an airplane or something like that, so that I don't have to use plastic utensils. Now, I'm going to say this again. I'm an 80-20 rule girl. Does that mean I never eat with plastic cutlery? Of course not. Of course I do occasionally. But again, if you go into everything, eliminating the over moderation of things that we're doing and start thinking to yourself, where can I completely eliminate things? And then as I want to and need to factor things in to go about my life, to live a rational, sane life, that's what you can do. So we've covered all those things. Again, grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Please leave me a comment of what you've taken away from this or another tip that you have for myself and the rest of the viewers, and give me a like. And I'll see you on the next video.